The latest economic data have come in stronger than expected, which suggests that the ultimate level of interest rates is likely to be higher than previously anticipated. Restoring price stability will likely require that we maintain a restrictive stance of monetary policy for some time. The historical record cautions strongly against prematurely loosening policy. We will stay the course until the job is done.
That is Fed Chair Jerome Powell warning the Fed could raise interest rates higher later this month to curb inflation. This will make everything Americans buy with credit even more expensive. Powell also telling senators yesterday the rate hikes could come at a more frequent pace, and that the president's fiscal policies are not to blame for the surge in prices. And of course, you can bet he got an earful from both sides.
If you could speak directly to the 2 million hardworking people who have decent jobs today, who you're planning to get fired over the next year, what would you say to them?
Inflation is extremely high, and it's hurting the working people of this country badly, all of them, not just 2 million of them.
And putting 2 million people out of work is just part of the cost, and they just have to bear it?
You're raising interest rates to slow the economy, are you not?
Yes, to cool the economy off.
So in effect, I'm not being critical. When you're slowing the economy, you're trying to put people out of work. That's your job, is it not?
Not really. We're trying to restore price stability.
Republican Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, a member of the Senate Banking, Appropriations, and Judiciary Committees, joins me now. Excellent questioning. I don't know if you really got the answers you were looking for, because I don't think that they understand the recipe for disaster that it would actually be if the Federal Reserve were not only to raise interest rates higher and faster than expected to combat inflation, but this is just the beginning. They plan there's going to be like a long line of rate hikes to come.
Well, Chairman Powell is just doing his job. Look, President Biden persists in saying that, my words, not his, a honey bun costs $20 and your 401k is crashing because the economy is so good. No one believes that because it's not true, and the American people aren't stupid. President Biden's inflation is pernicious. It is a cancer on the American dream. And we're not going to get it down without costing millions of people their jobs unless Congress helps on the fiscal side by reducing the rate of growth of spending and reducing the rate of growth of debt accumulation. And Jay Powell knows that. He can't say it. And anyone who knows an economics textbook from an L.L. Bean catalog knows that.
All right. All right. Senator Kennedy, if you could stand by just a moment. The House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic is meeting right now, trying to determine the COVID origins. Jim Jordan was questioning. Let's go to that real quick.
Dr. Redfield, you ran the CDC and you were on the coronavirus task force. Is that right?
Correct.
That was formed on January 29th. 2020, is that right?
Correct.
2 days later, Dr. Fauci gets an email from Dr. Anderson which says what? Virus looks engineered, virus not consistent with evolutionary theory. Is that accurate?
That's my understanding.
Next day, I know, did he share that email with you, by the way, Dr. Redfield?
No.
As a member of the task force, as a head of CDC, did he share that email with you?
No.
Okay, next day, February 1st, Dr. Gary sends Dr. Fauci another email. That email says, I don't know how this happens in nature, but it would be easy to do in a lab. Did he share that email with you, Dr. Redfield?
No.
You didn't see either one of those emails, even though you're head of CDC, even though you're on the coronavirus task force that had been formed just 3 days earlier.
No.
3 days later, Dr. Anderson and Dr. Gary, who told us it came from a lab in emails to Dr. Fauci that Dr. Fauci wouldn't let Dr. Redfield see, 3 days later, they changed their position 180 degrees. The question is why? Mr. Wade, why would they change their position that fast when the only intervening event is a conference call with Dr. Fauci, the guy who wouldn't let Dr. Redfield see the very emails that they had sent him, Dr. Redfield, head of CDC on the coronavirus task force? Why would they change their position, Dr. Wade, or Mr. Wade?
Well, this question does lie at the heart of the issue. What is pertinent, it seems to me, is there's no new scientific evidence that we can see that came available between these dates, the January 31st and Feb 4.
Right, there's no new, I think you're, go ahead.
So you have to ask if there were other kinds of influence available. Now, it is true that Dr. Fauci and Dr. Farry in London were very powerful research officials, and between them they control...
I read your testimony. I saw that. Yeah.
So...
Why don't you cut to the chase and tell them what you really think was the reason?
I don't know what the reason was.
I know what it was. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll let you say it because I read your testimony. I think you said it in your testimony too. Maybe you're reluctant to say it here, but go ahead.
Well, if you're looking at the timeline, on May 21st, just a few weeks after the Nature Medicine article had come out, two of the signatories of the original email to Dr. Fauci, that's Dr. Anderson and Dr. Gary, were awarded a $9 million grant for the...
So there's 9 million reasons why they changed their mind. I knew you'd get to it. I read that last night. 3 months after, so 3 days after they say it came from a lab, they changed their position, and the only intervening event's a conference call with Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins. Again, a call that Mr. Redfield was not allowed to be on, the head of CDC and on the coronavirus task force. And then 3 months later, shazam, they get $9 million from Dr. Fauci. Well, isn't that something? Isn't that something? That's why we want to talk to these guys. That's why Chairman Winstrup wants to bring in Dr. Anderson and Dr. Gary and ask them a series of questions so we can get to the bottom of this, so we can move forward and deal with this. Now, here's the key question. Look, I'm just a common sense guy from Ohio. I majored in wrestling in college, but I got a degree in economics. You're supposed to get a degree when you go to college. I got one in economics. And one of the things they tell you about is a thing called opportunity cost. So when you're spending your time making sure that the country believes only one of these theories, you could have been doing what Dr. Redfield was doing in our government, trying to figure out how we deal with this virus. And what was Dr. Fauci doing? He was trying to cover his backside, and everybody knows it. And that's a part that ticks us off, because this is the highest paid guy in our government getting all kinds of money to tell us things that were not accurate. Because we now know U.S. tax dollars went to a lab in China, a lab that was not up to code, a lab that was doing gain-of-function research, and that's where this thing most definitely came from. And Dr. Fauci had to prove, no, he can't have that news getting out. And that's why he did what he did, to the exclusion of a brilliant guy running our CDC, kept him out of the loop. Keeping him out of the loop probably potentially could have harmed America. That's the thing that ticks us all off. And that's why, Mr. Chairman, this hearing is so darn important, and we get to the bottom of really what happened. I yield back.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to make a closing
Wow.
statement.
All right. Well, let's talk about it. Senator Kennedy, you got to weigh in on this. This is the House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic. There you just listened to Congressman Jim Jordan firing away questions to which he knows the answer, right? I mean, he knows that there are lies behind this administration. He knows that Fauci knew more than what he admits to, and he just wants to see accountability, as should the rest of us. We, after 3 years, millions of deaths, should know the origins of COVID, and it took for the House to be run by Republicans to finally get to the bottom of it, or at least try to.
Well, sunlight is an extraordinarily effective antiseptic. Look, I know Dr. Fauci. He's a smart man. He has a silver tongue. He enjoys doing media interviews. But his behavior and lack of candor during the epidemic has undermined almost immeasurably the institution of science and public health. And no one knows who to believe anymore. And I think it's incumbent on Dr. Fauci and his colleagues who participated with him to go in front of the American people and tell them the truth, and tell them why they said what they said in light of the evidence that they had that they did not share with the American people. And that's not a political statement. That's a fact. People need to believe in science. People need to believe in public health. And when you've been through what we've been through, I just think Dr. Fauci and his team have hurt both.
Yeah. It's a shame, but we do deserve answers, especially for all those people who lost loved ones. They deserve answers. There are a couple hearings that we're watching right now in Washington. Right now, the Senate is also in the middle of holding a hearing on worldwide threats, with China playing a big role. Obviously, you know a lot about this hearing as well. Today's hearing coming a day after China's foreign minister took a direct shot at the U.S., saying ties between both nations risk going off the rails. He even warned that current U.S. strategy risks plunging the nations into a conflict. You've got Chinese leader Xi Jinping unleashing similar verbal salvo at Washington. The White House, meantime, brushing off the hostile language. Watch.
We seek a strategic competition with China. We do not seek conflict. There's been no change to our one China policy. We don't believe that the Chinese have taken that option off their table of lethal assistance. But we also haven't seen any indications that they've acted on it. And it should not be in China's interest to want to do that.
Of course it's not in China's interest to want to do that, but when is it in China's interest to do anything stupid that they do? And what deterrent is there from this administration to stop them from doing so?
China is wealthy in part because of the United States. We helped China be admitted to the World Trade Organization on December 11th, 2001. China started cheating December 12th. For a long time, we put up with it. President Xi has been president of China since 2013, and he's been very, very aggressive all over the world. I do not want a Cold War with China. I do not want a hot war with China. All I want from China is for China to be a responsible member of a stable world order. But that's up to China. And President Xi, it is apparent, only understands strength. Appeasing him is like trying to hand feed a shark. Now, having said all that, Julie, that doesn't mean we shouldn't talk. We do need to talk. We need to talk with China about trade, about nuclear proliferation, about the South China Sea, about Taiwan. Let me say it again. I don't want a hot or a cold war with China, but a lot of that's up to China. With President Xi, if you turn the other cheek, you'll just get it in the neck. He understands strength, and we have to be firm but open to improving the relationship.
Yeah, we need to show more strength, okay? He's going to come at us with strength. You got to go beyond that. I mean, that's just the bottom line.
What was one of the first things that President Biden did when he became president? He got rid of the China initiative at the Department of Justice, whereby we were putting college professors in jail for selling their research to China.
Right.
President Biden got rid of it. What kind of message did that send to President Xi?
Weakness.
Weakness.
Yeah. All right. Loved having you on. Thank you so much for hanging out with us as well and being so patient. Senator John Kennedy, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.